Russian investigators have blamed terrorism for a series of deadly shootings in the country's southern Dagestan region. At least 20 people were killed during coordinated attacks in the cities of Makhachkala and Derbent. Gunmen targeted a synagogue, 2 Orthodox churches and a police traffic post. And no one has claimed responsibility for the killings, but the attacks have renewed fears of a resurgence in Islamist violence in the region.
Investigators search for clues, while soldiers secure the area after the deadly attacks. This Orthodox church and the synagogue in the city of Derbent were among the targets. The governor of Dagestan came to see the aftermath for himself.
Search and investigative measures will continue. They will continue until all of the members of the sleeper cells that were certainly set up, including those members from abroad, are identified.
Footage from eyewitnesses captured a skirmish between gunmen and security forces in Dagestan's capital Makhachkala. Most of the dead were police officers.
The relevant services and law enforcement agencies worked quickly, but unfortunately there were losses. We offer our sincere condolences to the families and friends whose sons and brothers died.
Nearly 120 kilometers separate Derbent and Makhachkala. Both cities came under attack for several hours. While no one has claimed responsibility, the Republic of Dagestan has been targeted by Islamic militants in the past. Russia's investigative committee has called the attacks acts of terror.
Let's explore this with Jerome Drevon, who's a senior analyst on jihad in modern conflict at Crisis Group. That's a think tank conducting research and analysis on global crises. Welcome to DW. So, Islamic State, is that the first place a sensible investigation would start looking?
Yes, definitely. Because even though this is the first attack that occurred in Dagestan, it does fit with a broader pattern of attacks. First of all in Moscow, but also in the region, in Iran, in Turkey in the past, and many other plots that were prevented by the authorities of different countries. So this is the obvious suspect at the moment.
And why Dagestan? Why Dagestan and North Caucasus? Why are they so vulnerable to these terrorist groups?
Let's say the group IS Khorasan tries to attack several countries in the region, but then it's a matter of opportunities. And Dagestan, like other Muslim republics within the Russian Federation, is also one of such targets, because it's a place that's quite poor, marginalized, and with a history also of militancy. So there are militant networks, some of whom have been involved in armed struggle in the past in other places, including in Syria, and so there is somehow, a conducive environment for recruitment, mobilization, and armed activities.
And recruitment amongst the local population or brought in from outside?
In this case, it seemed that most of the perpetrators were locals, at least the names that were revealed by the authorities. But I would not exclude that some of them might come from abroad. In the past, when you look at patterns of attacks that occurred in the region, but also some of the attempts in European countries, we often had Central Asians that were involved, including from Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and so on. So it would not be excluded that some individuals from these regions also could have been involved in those attacks.
Russian troops fought against a number of militant Islamist groups in Dagestan in the immediate post-Soviet period, and they even declared victory in 2017. So is this just an opportunist attack, or are they now regaining strength?
I think it's most of all an opportunist attack, but there is a risk as well for a contagion in the region, because there are still militant networks that are active. There are also real grievances, and there are militants who have been involved in jihad in several different countries that have the experience and that can potentially mobilize locally. So for now, those are individual attacks, even though they require quite a level of sophistication, which can be quite alarming as well for the authorities. But I would not exclude for similar attacks to recur in the future as well.
And what are the grievances that these people say they have that they use to justify these attacks?
I mean, you have two types of claims. I mean, the broader claims of the group IS Khorasan, if it's confirmed that it's them, it's just that they're fighting everybody else. I mean, they're fighting Muslims, non-Muslims, states, non-states. They're basically at war against the world. But those are the official claims. Then when they try to recruit, they also try to build on local grievances. And that includes a level of marginalization within Russia, but that also includes the type of political regimes that's in Dagestan. That's also authoritarian, under tight control, with little freedom of expression and so on. So they can build upon those grievances to promote their broader global agenda.
And when we hear from the Kremlin that foreign forces have supported these attacks, and they point the finger in particular at Ukraine, how much credence should we give those sort of claims?
I don't think the Russian authorities believe in their own claims. If we look at what happened in Moscow, there was exactly the same claims. Initially, they blamed Ukraine, but then ultimately they went after those more radical armed networks. So they don't have to believe in their claim. This is just part of the propaganda war of Russia against its foreign enemies. And it's also a way to justify domestically that this is linked to the war in Ukraine, and so to further justify the type of the war that Russia has launched against Ukraine. But it has no connection whatsoever.
OK, thank you for guiding us through that so clearly. Jerome Drevon from the Crisis Group.
Thank you.
Let's get more from our correspondent, Grzegorz Szymanowski, who joins us from Riga, since the Kremlin has banned DW from operating in Russia. Welcome, Grzegorz. What's being said about the gunmen?
Well, Russian investigators said that all 5 of the gunmen were killed by security forces during their operation. No group has claimed responsibility for this attack yet. However, the Afghanistan branch of the Islamic State group has praised the attack. They didn't claim responsibility, but they praised it. And Russian media are quoting security agencies that all the perpetrators were from Dagestan, and 2 of them were sons of a local politician from the United Russia Party. This is the main Russian party supporting Vladimir Putin now. This official head of a district in Dagestan was reportedly expelled from the party overnight and interrogated by the police. And according to media reports, he said that he knew that his sons were close to extremist Wahhabist circles, but he didn't know anything about any plans of the attack. But this is still a developing story. The investigators are still putting the pieces together, and we are waiting for more information, specifically whether any group will claim this attack.
And so that's what the investigators are saying. What are Russian authorities saying, Grzegorz?
Well, we've heard from the Kremlin the condemnation of the attack, as you mentioned before, and also condolences from the president, from Vladimir Putin. However, no speech, no address is planned from him at this point. Some Russian officials have vaguely attempted to connect this event to the ongoing war in Ukraine. The governor of Dagestan has vaguely indicated such connection in his initial statement early on Monday morning. Also, the head of the Russian parliament has vaguely indicated such connection. This reminds us a little bit of the reactions after the terrorist attack on the concert hall in Moscow in March this year, when some Russian officials were also trying to frame the attack back then and claim Ukrainian responsibility. But we are waiting for more reactions from the Russian officials and investigators.
And this all happened in the Dagestan Republic within Russia. Tell us more about that place and the threat that it has suffered from militant groups.
Yes, sure. Dagestan is a republic in the North Caucasus. It's dominantly a Muslim region. And in the early 2000s, it was hit by an Islamist insurgency, which mostly spilled over from the neighboring Chechnya. Now, Chechnya was a place of two brutal wars in the 1990s when Russia cracked down on separatists there. And these Islamist networks were quite strong in Dagestan. Also internationally, we know of militants from Dagestan who have traveled to Syria and Iraq to join the Islamic State group there. However, in Dagestan itself, the attacks have become fewer in recent years. In 2017, Russia even claimed that this Islamist insurgency is over. However, yes, this attack from this weekend could indicate that there will be possibly new problems in this region.
Okay, thanks for guiding us through that, Grzegorz. Grzegorz Szymanowski in Riga. Thank you.